Hello, everybody. Welcome to Fridays at 5. It's been a while. It's strange to have these monthly gatherings now that used to be weekly. It was such a rolling kind of a rhythm back during pandemic, and now I miss you. So I'm so glad to have you here. Yeah, I'm Karen Taylor of the Color Vowel Chart. If you're new to Fridays at 5 or you're watching this recording, be sure to check out our entire playlist of past episodes where we largely look into educational technology, as well as color vowel materials, techniques, and just general strategies for effective teaching. Yeah. So today's topic, Doug, I want to thank you in the room. Doug raised this topic as a real problem of his, and that is engaging adult learners. Doug, you want to tell us a little bit about what drove you to put it that way and to bring it to me?
Oh, well, we were having a conversation in one of my classes about, with our teachers about conversation and the importance of conversation. And it seems like a lot of the students will spend 6 months or a year or more in English classes, but they're still not comfortable having a conversation with a Native American speaker. I know one example is I had one student, we'd gone over all these conversations that were very formal. You know, it's good morning, John. How are you? I'm fine. How are you? I'm nice. Have a good day. So Juan, he went into the Mexican restaurant the next morning where he works, and he saw his friend, the dishwasher, over there working, and he said, "Good morning, Tyrone. How are you?" And Tyrone looks around and he says, "Yo, dog, what up?" Well, that was the end of the conversation. He wasn't able to recover from that. And I'm thinking, you know, we're really not teaching him enough. So how do we, what are conversation skills, and how do we define them, and how do we take them into the classroom so that our students can deal with situations like that?
Oh, wow. You just opened up a wonderful kettle of fish or a can of worms. I don't know which one, but really,
it was fun.
You're getting into a really important question about authenticity. You know, is how well are we equipping our students for the real context in which they interact? So, and is it all on us, or can our students play a role if we create a space for that role?
And they have to know that they need to.
Yeah, that's right. So let me hold on to that, what Doug has just described, and say, you know, he contacted me about 2 months ago with the idea of today's topic. Others have come to the room with their own idea of what they'd like to get out of today's topic too. So let's call this a bit of a sharing brainstorming opening to really visit the topic. Okay, so the topic, once again, I even have, I believe, a little graphic for it. If you are a visual person, it's that simple: engaging adult learners. So the topic might have called you in a particular way. And let me just ask the room, what other thoughts or questions do you have coming here, or what is it you really want to gain today? And the next person in the room was Peggy. So Peggy, can you tell us?
I have students, night school students, and they variously speak. A lot of them speak Spanish, of course, being in Denver. But I also have Ukrainian speakers and Kurdish, and one fellow who speaks Russian, and he understands Ukrainian, and it's close enough. So and the Ukrainian students can talk. He comes from Tajikistan. And so Tajikistan has Russian as well as, you know, other cultural tongues. So I'm lucky in that I've always had enough students that do not have the same mother tongue that I can put them together, and they have to speak English to communicate. And they're generally delighted to find that they can communicate. And they actually, I think, 2 ESL students on about the same level, or even slightly different levels, can talk to each other more comfortably than they can talk to Americans, because they are both speaking the same nicely pronounced standard English. And the book we are using has, it's an audio as well as written book. It's the Venture series, and I'm delighted to find that they go fairly fluently and fast, but not really into slang. They'll say, they are not going to say, I will go to the store tomorrow. They'll say, I'll go to the store tomorrow, and sound fairly natural, but no, they do not really get into slang. So I create dialogues for the students that do sometimes go into slang, and I get them to do it the color vowel way. I'm gonna, rather I am going to, it's I'm gonna, or did you, the classic one, did you eat yet, is just jeet yet. And so in dialogues, I do that, and I tell them, if you say it nicely to somebody, they will understand you. No problem. We're practicing it this way so you can understand when you hear other people say it. So what can I say? I do teach slang.
Great. Yeah, so slang would be, in this case, you're talking about reduced speech, and that's
Reduced
so
speech,
important.
mostly
And I
reduced,
appreciate giving
yes.
us credit, the color vowel way, but we're really just teaching what we do call reduced speech, and we have ways that we go about that. Thank you so much, Peggy. We're still brainstorming, or rather sharing any objectives you have for today. I know, Karen, Sue, and Wendell, you all work in an adult ed program together. Is engagement something that's on your mind, engaging your students? Or you've come because you're new to Color Vowel and you've just completed the practicum. So I think you're super enthusiastic.
We're relatively new at this, and we've kind of done a test case with our lowest students, and we want to get our intermediate and advanced teachers on board. So we're just trying to find a way. It's really easy to do with beginning students because they're learning how to pronounce everything anyway. But with the older students, we just want to know how to integrate that when they've already kind of mastered a volume of vocabulary, to make it interesting for them. And I don't know.
We're trying to engage the other teachers.
Yeah, well, that too.
That's
We're trying to get everybody on board. We've won a couple of them over already. So
That's what I was going to say. It sounds like you're trying to engage some of your teachers. Wonderful. So the question is, this is work to engage our lower level students. What about the upper level students who are more fluent? And I have plenty I can share about that, but I'm going to put that as the topic, and we'll dig into it shortly. Okay. Anybody else is anyone else coming with a pain point around engaging adult students? We know our students, for example, when they're adult students, they come with complex lives, right? Just like all of us have. We're all adults. We have complicated lives, especially if we have, complicated lives. It doesn't matter what your factors are. Do you have a family? Do you work with friends? We all have complicated lives regardless. And so there's that. We also know people are tired. This is a real factor when it comes to adult ESL, just simply the fatigue of the day and the week, working a lot of jobs. Some of you may work with adults who have jobs that involve working with chemicals, who works with people who clean buildings or houses. These are factors that can impact engagement. If we're talking about just, how are they sitting in the room? How do they participate in class? They obviously want to be there because they came and they're adults, so they have that choice. And yet maybe they're not as engaged as you want. Is any of this plucking a string or ringing a bell for you that you'd like to add on to? Anyone?
Can I add something? A pain point that I noticed with my classes, they come with a lot of preconceptions about what English language learning is about. And they can be much more resistant than younger learners to different kinds of activities. They want you to correct everything. They want to, after a long day, they want to sit and tell somebody how to tell them how to speak English. They're used to grammar, and when they don't get, grammar rules, they can be uncomfortable. And so keeping them engaged, I think, requires us to acknowledge the cultural baggage they bring when it comes to what language learning is about. And how do you get around that block sometimes?
So I'm making a little list here. Why are students unengaged?
Yeah,
If
well,
we want to think of it that way. Yeah.
another comment is that we were talking about how can we improve our retention, and it just occurred to us that retention and attendance is two different things.
Mm-hmm.
So we really were more concerned about how do we keep the attendance up so that the students will stay and finish the term, and why are they leaving? Why are they not staying? I mean, we have large classes. I was in a conference yesterday, and they were most of the teachers were one-on-one tutors, but we have a class of maybe 20 people in my class, 20 adult learners, and they get halfway through and they just don't come back. Sometimes they miss a few classes, and I think maybe they feel like they lost too much, so they can't come back, or they'll be behind the class or something. But we were talking about how do we improve our retention, and it turns out we really needed to engage the students to cause them to want to come back. So it was more of an engagement for attendance than retention.
Well, I have students who just drop out right and left too, but it's unavoidable. And quite a lot of the time their child joins the team. What's starting up now? Basketball. And they have basketball practice on Tuesday night, or they go out of the country even. I mean, I've had some students. Now my students feel that they can come back and drop in or drop out pretty well, I think. And they have sometimes dropped out and then dropped back in when they were able to. But this is a problem because the courses are technically set up, assuming everybody will come sit down in their chair in rows and go through the book, every chapter, every exam routinely. And my people do not. I mean, this just isn't their situation.
I think you've hit on it, Peggy, and I don't know if we want to go down this route now, but I think it's a curriculum type of question. Is it a kind of curriculum you've set up where if somebody misses because a child is sick or they have to work, they go on a business trip, is it they feel that I've missed too much, I'm behind, or do you have sort of a recycling kind of curriculum where somebody can miss, come back and not be entirely, behind?
Well, my books, luckily the Ventures series, you don't need me. You could do the whole book yourself, because those QR codes, you get the recordings and you've got the online person giving you everything. I mean, you could do it totally on your own if you wanted to.
Although maybe without so much interaction.
Right. So in class, what I try to do and try to emphasize the students that we're doing is talking to each other and using at whatever level we are. And I do have some students in the blue book and some students in the green book, very different levels. But I try to, in class, take that opportunity for them to interact. And they understand, I think, that it's up to them to go as fast as they can and as in-depth as they can. And they have a workbook to supplement if they are pretty fast and get through whatever unit we're on at the moment. but the people I
So
work
let me
for
ask,
are really
yeah,
unit oriented. We did unit 1, we did unit 2, we did unit 3. And that's just not the way. That's
yeah.
just not the
Well,
way
Peggy,
it works.
let me pose a question, everyone, because we're still kind of narrowing this question around engagement. We can talk about retention, attendance. All of these are related concepts in adult ed, especially. But if we stick with the concept of engagement for the moment, can we agree that engagement is maybe referring to that time in class, making the most of that moment in class? Raise your hand if you feel like that is something you would like to say a boost, the feeling that everyone's going to pitch in, or that they're going to repeat, or that they're going to say something. And here you may feel there's an uneven landscape, that some are raising their hands or speaking out and others are quieter in the back. Can I have a raise of hands as to who feels affected by that kind of a dynamic?
Well, always, but my guys, I get them to jump in there pretty well.
Okay, good. So a few of you. So what else is on other folks' mind? There's still sort of an idea gathering right now. I see Debbie, you're here thinking. What are you thinking about with this topic? Oh, sorry, you're still muted.
Okay, I just finished the basics course, and so I'm just trying to gather as much information as I can. This semester, I'm teaching at 2 community colleges and a factory, and everybody is super engaged. I don't know what I did, but anyway, I'm here to learn.
Wonderful. So they're super engaged. Can you tell us what that looks like when you say they're super engaged?
Well, I just had one of the counselors come to talk about bias, discrimination, prejudice, and she asked a question and 6 hands would go up. And she's going, oh my gosh, you're 3 weeks into the semester? Wow. So anything she asked, she had to tell people, please put your hands down. You've already answered 6 times. So yeah,
Great.
they're very
At what level
talkative.
is it, by the way? What level are you teaching, by the way?
That's advanced.
Okay. Do you think the level plays a role in the sense of engagement? Is it maybe easier to be engaged when you have a wider vocabulary and more grammar? Who works with beginners?
I do too at the factory.
And so do you see, how does engagement look for them? Is it equal but different?
No.
Because
No, I do think the more they know, the easier it is for them. But the factory workers now, at the beginning, when I started with them in June, would not even answer anything. And now they're raising their hands, they're asking questions. So I think they're just more comfortable with speaking what they know.
So their confidence has grown.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll want to pay attention to that, I think, is that idea that it's just because they're quiet doesn't mean they're not engaged. I think that's an important, concept for all of us. But if they're quiet, what are they doing? So those of you, everybody knows the chart. And if we introduce the chart, for example, that's a pretty quiet activity with a bit of repetition, leave some space. They might ask a question, and that question could be mustard, big, it could be 2 words. It's a question like, yes, it is big. You're right. Very good. And I might answer it just like that, just by acknowledging, thank you so much. Or I might just give some examples. But, and that's just a chart example, but there are lots of ways to gauge beginner engagement, right? Liz, how about you? I know you're working are you still at the Washington English Center? Oh, I caught you off guard. I get it. We'll give you a minute to walk where you need to go. We can't hear you though, just so you know. You'd have to unmute.
Well, sorry. Yeah, thanks for reminding me. No, I got the message that you are having Fridays at 5, so I thought I better check in and see what's doing. It sounds to me as though your focus is on online teaching. Is that right?
No, actually, I
No.
think we got a lot of
Oh,
face-to-face people here today.
oh,
From
okay,
I know. The
okay,
topic is engagement. So
right.
if you're popping in, that's wonderful. But
Okay,
just that
no, I
idea to
just,
have a
yeah, I don't seem to have a problem. I mean, there are always some shy students, but after I get to know them a little bit and know I'm not going to scare them by calling on them, I will do that. So one way or another, there's always a lot of activity in class. So I just don't have a serious problem.
Okay, great. Any other comments before I'm kind of using all these ideas and coming up with a bit of an idea of how to spend our own engagement time. Any other questions or concerns? Yeah, Doug.
One of my main concerns about it is I don't really have a problem with them not being engaged in the class. But the question is, are we really teaching them the English that they need when they step out the door? They always ask me when is the next test, and I tell them, well, the next test is at 9 o'clock. And they say, oh, we're testing tonight. I said, no, when you walk out the door, that's the next test. You need to talk to somebody.
Good point.
Let's-
Great. Well, if you were, and please keep the chat open. You can keep sharing there like Sharon has. Thank you, Sharon. You know,
Yeah.
that as she wrote
Chat,
here, my
chat.
issue is trying not to insult upper level students with scientific jobs by having them do things they might think are babyish, like using their hands. Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, I'm so glad that you wrote that. And I'm going to come back. Doug, your point is, in fact, I'm so excited about your point, which has to do again with authentic purposes, matching what we're teaching to what students are facing. And I think we can go there toward the latter part of our meeting today. But let's just take care of a couple comments that have been made about lower level versus advanced students, and specifically the chart for just a moment, since that's come up. And thank you, Sharon, again.
Mhm.
Is it surprising to hear that I created the chart with specifically university postgraduate students in the sciences? I created it with and for them, as well as the method. So is that surprising to anybody that it's, oh, wow. Yeah, exactly. Wow. So it's funny because we'll see what we are sort of predisposed to see. I've had lots of people at conferences walk by and they say, oh, that's really cute. The kids must love it.
Mhm.
And they say, well, come back here. Just a minute. So we created, Shirley and I created the chart, both of us at universities. I was at the University of Maryland and Shirley was at George Washington U, all of us working with graduate students exclusively. And we used the chart and created it for them because they were overthinking what it meant to speak well. And it was almost paralyzing for them. And when it wasn't paralyzing, it was overcomplicating their speech with lots of trying to enunciate at the same time they were trying to follow everything that they could glean from transcriptions and dictionaries and other sort of scientific approaches to looking at what language is. So we used it to simplify, clarify, and quiet their English to become clearer with more stress. And so the gestures started back then with them. And that's all I'll say. I just wanted to kind of put that out there for now and say that it's not so much the gestures that might seem babyish. It might be the presentation or maybe your own confidence that can play a role too. If you're worried about it, then they can smell that too. So some of this will change as your confidence grows in why we do these things. Once you know why we use the hands so much, it's just like if you had to get some kind of let's say body work done, like maybe your shoulder was bad and you went to somebody who's just recommended by everybody, and you went and they said, I know it's going to help you and it's going to be a little different, but I want you to trust me. And you say, I'll do anything, my shoulder's bothering me. And I say, well, and then they give you this plan that's a little out of the box and you find, oh my gosh, that thing works. I think I'll do that. So that's kind of the, that's the aura that you can develop for yourself with your students that will take them far in terms of buy-in with something that, they're not accustomed to using their hand at first. Any add-ons to that?
I found with adult students, you really do have to explain it, and kids will just do it. But with adults, you have, I think, to Sharon's point, once you explain why you do it, even the ones who are a little reticent, once they see everybody else doing it, or, that one time when it makes the difference for somebody, and even, they'll do this thing. Once you get them to see that time, and doing other activities, or giving them rubber bands, or doing the
They do the rubber
the
bands
foosball
one.
toss where they have to extend the vowel, they start to see the effect of that. And I think you have to almost take a sort of a meta approach to it to help them.
By the way, Jennifer's a master of this. In case you're not aware of the level 2 coaching practicum, since so many of you have done level 1 or are heading toward the practicum. In level 2, we have a coaching practicum where we teach learners of English, adult learners of English who are advanced. And we have coaches in the room who are in their level 2 training journey. And so you get to watch Jennifer train these learners, and then those coaches actually get to provide pronunciation feedback. So we get to see Jennifer with a brand new batch of students a couple times, 4 times a year, quickly getting them on board with the gestures and the why of the method. And that's pretty neat to watch. Okay, good. All right.
Did we answer
So
your
back-
question, Sharon?
Yeah, that's the next question. So the babyish part. Sharon, have you tried this, and has that been the reaction, or is it more of a concern of that happening?
Oh, she said, yes, thanks.
Yes, thanks. Okay. All right. So yeah, I think you'll find adults really do, they appreciate knowing why. And when they're lower level, I would start with doing it. And then a lot of times you'll find a way forward where they can ask those questions, but get started right away. Okay, wonderful. So back down to beginners. So we've talked briefly about advanced students, but now back to engagement and beginners. Beginners have a narrower range of vocabulary. They don't have the grammar. You know this if you've ever tried to say something in a language you don't quite know. You think, gosh, how can I say that? And you're just stuck and say nothing, maybe. I've certainly had that experience. And so our learners they're stymied, they're stuck there. So what can we do with them? What are some activities that you use to engage low-level learners so they kind of forget their low-levelness for a moment? What gets them talking? We're just looking for ideas.
I have kind of fun with my students we started using Reader's Theater for some things, some of the really simple ones. And just recently I've gotten a book called Grammar Chance.
Yes.
Oh,
Carolyn Graham.
Grammar
She's a
Chance.
master. Yeah.
And I found all of the audio that goes with that is available on YouTube. So we're starting using that this time. And I think they're all adult students, and it's got kind of a question and answer format to the grammar lessons. And so I did half of the room be asking the question and the other half answering, and we get that going back and forth, and they all seem to stand up and laugh about it and have a good time with it. So I'm hopeful that that's going to work out for them, but it keeps them in the class. The other thing about the Reader's Theater is that if they're committed to speak a part that they need to practice, then they got to come back next time.
If you're not familiar with Grammar Chance, it's sorry, Jennifer. It's part of the larger series of jazz chants and other chants that Carolyn Graham wrote. I just put that in the chat. Jennifer.
I'd be careful calling that Reader's Theater, Doug. I mean, that I would call that chance.
Oh, I do call it chance. I call it chance, and Reader's Theater is something different.
Yeah, because Reader's Theater is an opportunity to really have them practice dialoguing, but in a in a theater style, and it's more of a script than just that chant. Yeah.
Yep, two separate
What
things.
else do you do? A couple more ideas of what you do already to engage learners. We've got some chants down. We've had a reference to Readers Theater. What else do you do to bring them in? Sue, what do you all do in your program?
I try as much as possible to have them do, like, we'll demonstrate a dialogue or a real simple dialogue where they can use substitution of words. But we try real hard to get them to do kind of a chain expression of it. Like, I'll ask a student and they'll answer, and then they'll turn and ask somebody else. And we usually start with our stronger ones in the beginners. And then by the time it gets to the weak ones, they've heard it multiple times. The other thing I like to do a lot is something physical. Like, we were learning the days of the week and the months of the year, and I would give them all like a card that had a name on it, and then we'd have somebody who had to put them in, who had everybody who was holding the card to put them in order, and then we all pronounce the names of the year. But I try to do things that are physical, so they're not just like reciting it to us.
Wonderful. Good. Any others? Well, I have a couple of ideas, and here you get to vote. Just want to make sure that since you've come to the table, we can offer these. One is that I like to use with all levels of learners, but is very motivating for low-level learners, is a chant, and it's also a chain chant like you're describing, Sue. And it's a what? It's a what?
Chain.
Yeah, it's a what? That's the name of the chant. It's a what? So it's a what? We can show you, we can do that right here in the room if you'd like to see how that works. But using a phrase or a kind of any kind of a small phrase that they'll find useful in all kinds of situations. And just that contraction, it's a what? And that one is one we can run. Another is, it's right here in our back pocket. It's color it out, is highly engaging and can be used in many different ways, many times. And for this one, I will, for sure, I'll be posting over in the teachers community to a Fridays at 5, where we focused entirely on the different ways you can use those color it out cards. Okay, so that's a useful thing to know about, that it's not just about being like Uno or just like Go Fish or just like Dominoes. There are actually different lexical ways you can use color it out. So just a thought about that. And I'll be inviting comments on each of these. And then a third that kind of comes back to beginnings is providing them with a foundation for engagement, which might be through something like the launch pad. So let's work our way backward. Who uses the launch pad already? And have you found that to be useful? Liz, you use the Launchpad? And Debbie, can we hear from each of you? Oh, you're still muted, Liz. Sorry, you'll have to unmute. I know. I wish it could just read our.
I haven't done this in so long that I forget. I had a whole year of online teaching, and I knew all the tricks, but now I'm back in the classroom and I've just forgotten it all. Yeah, at the beginning of each term, when I introduce the color chart to the new students, and then we work on the, I can't remember exactly what your question was focusing on, but I have upper intermediate students. So right there, I have a different group.
Basically, how you use the Launchpad to
How I
engage.
use the Launchpad. Okay, well, I pretty much follow what I first learned through the book that you produced. And I have the students write their names down and my name, not the rest of it, because that just takes more time. And then we go through the colors and I use my hand, and some of them will use theirs and copying, and most of them won't. And then a little bit later, I sort of give them an explanation of why we're using the hand, and then the others sort of start in as well. And we just go around the colors and have them, I say the color and then the sound, and then they repeat it, and then try it again. The next time I'd say the color, and then they say the sound, and then I ask them what their name is and what color they think it is, and then we turn it over and they put their name in the organizer, and then we read the ones where the organizer already has the words that have been. So that was sort of starting from there. Is that, am I answering the question that you want to know?
Yeah. Absolutely. So, the idea that you can start right here, not at the top, you can start here.
Oh,
You can come back to the top later, or however you decide to go about it. The lesson plan we sell with this, it's just a video that you can watch. So it's a lot of what Liz is describing, everybody. But what's nice is that it's a tangible thing. It has a lesson plan built around it, so that they have all of the examples.
oh, right. I
that-
forgot the bottom. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Right.
so
Yeah.
yeah, so this in particular, lots of different ways to
Right.
use these bars, right?
Mhm.
And so we're just looking for any ideas folks have done, something you've done that's maybe a little different than the lesson plan. Does anyone want to add to what they do with the front side of the Launchpad?
I use it when we have new vocabulary every other lesson. And so we use that to decide what color the vocabulary word is.
Mhm.
And this is with my beginning students.
Wonderful. So this is their touchable go-to color vowel chart, right?
Yes.
Years ago, for those of us, I think Liz, you've been around for quite a long time, Doug as well. We had a whole page size version of the chart that was sort of a plastic,
Right.
called what's that thing called, a binder insert. It will last forever, but we decided to bring the price point down for everybody and just print it and make it something that people can take home and write on. And so that's true. Students really need to be able to touch, tap, trace, and slide around on the chart. And if you don't have a large classroom where they can come up to a central place and work with a big chart, or even if you do, being able to sit here and trace, there and touch the chart is its own form of engagement for sure. Okay. Who
Karen,
has their
oh,
students?
sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Liz.
Oh, I'm going to say I still have a number, not the number is diminishing, but a number of the original of these sheets for the students that you generously gave out if we answered some questions when you were making up the next version. And so, yeah, every student has one of these, correct?
Yeah.
That's, I think, having their own copy of the chart, just, they love that, first of all.
Yeah.
And I do think the touching is really important. And the other thing I found is when you're talking about moving vowels, or when you start doing R-controlled vowels, if you get some of these, what are they called? Page protectors. They're plastic things. They can put, even though these will last 2 semesters easy because the paper is really
Heavy.
great. Put it in a page protector, and then if you're like me, you have all of those special pens for those markers for overhead protectors. You give those out, and they can draw the arrows, they can draw the movement, they can circle, they can write if you're doing like a if you're online and you do a virtual sort of menagerie, they can draw on it, and then they can erase it, and it's great that way. They're not marking up their beautiful pristine copy.
Yeah, I just felt pretty funny drawing on mine.
So we use
But let's be gutsy. Let's do it, for reals. If we do that, that's the kind of thing. I
Ouch.
mean, a student might want to remind themselves, I know it's sacrilege, but we could have something like do your markups there, for me from California there. Okay. But those sheet projectors are great.
We use the chart a lot, and that's I used to use this Launchpad, but this term when we switched over to this confidence and connections, they've of course got it in the back of their book, so the students all get it in the back of their book. But the problem that I have with it is they start on page 4 and they only talk about red pepper and green tea, and I'm thinking the students have to have the greater introduction to the chart before we can talk about 2 colors and forget it. So I spend a lot of time with the chart on the first lessons of our, when we have our first classes, and go through all of the things that we would normally go through on a Launchpad.
Doug is referring to confidence and connections by Intercambio, just put that in there, Uniting Communities. And they're a partner of ours, so they publish the chart in their books. There it is. Maybe Jennifer could provide a URL for that. If you are in an adult ed program, they are a nonprofit dedicated to providing textbooks at, I think, a very affordable price. And I love talking with them because they're great about giving resources for applying for grants. I mean, I think a lot of you are in those kind of situations where you might be looking for grants or funding for your programs. But Confidence Connections is very much about that connecting with the community. The themes are all adult immigrant themes that are relevant. And they put out a couple of other neat publications, by the way, including the cultural guide that's called The Cultural Guide, I think, in a bunch of different languages. Do you get that as well, Doug?
I've looked at it on their website, but I haven't got it.
Yeah, so if you work with especially newcomer adults, check out their website for their, I think it's called The Culture Guide, the Survival Guide, something like that. And it's published in about 25 different languages, all with the very same content. Just sort of, it just made me think about that. But everything about, how to access emergency services to customs regarding,
I just think their
children in school.
introduction. I just think their introduction to the color vowel chart is a little incomplete. So-
Right. So the books presuppose knowing the chart or starting in the back of the book with the chart.
Exactly.
And that's the talent and the art that the teacher brings to the table. Because there's only so much that, if you start every book with the introduction of the color vowel chart, it's gonna be tough to dive right in. But well put. Okay, Jennifer.
Yeah, I was thinking again of what do we do with these advanced students, but also the idea of recognizing that these are fully fledged individuals. Unlike working with kids, I mean, you have people who have life experiences and have things to share and things they want to be able to say in English. And so doing something like a digital story, if you have if your students are tech savvy enough, but even if they're not too tech savvy, you can do a digital story, which is creating a short video about one thing. It's only like maybe a 5-minute video, or presentations, or some kind of sharing where you help them prepare a talk, doing, and now I can't think of the name of it, the Japanese style of presentation, where you have 20 slides. Pechakucha, thank you. And we won't get in the debate of how that's actually supposed to be pronounced. I say Pechakucha, but which is a very, it's a long presentation. It's like 6 minutes, but it's very controlled, and it gets them to really, if you work on it a lot with them, they have to really have concise statements, because the slides move automatically, and like is it 90 seconds or
every 20 seconds?
Yeah, it's a limited number of slides, and they only stay for an amount of time. But all of those, it really gives them an opportunity to talk about the things that are important to them. So if you do a Pechakucha, I always say, think of a presentation or a talk that you give often. And so I had a student who was learning American Sign Language, and she wanted to talk about the development of different sign languages, and not just American. And another student wanted to talk about ticks, because that was his specialty. He was studying diseases and ticks. And then
those kind of ticks.
Yes, that kind of tick.
I thought you meant like my
God. No, no, it was the grossest, 6 minutes and 20 seconds or whatever I sat through, but it was important to him. A real estate agent who wanted to develop her spiel for why she should, you should hire her. Another real estate agent who wanted to talk about how to improve your credit score. These are talks that they give all the time, and they wanted that language. And so, and doing it step by step, especially if there are visuals involved. But I find that that's the way, if you make that a semester project, to really keep your students engaged, and they'll want to keep coming because they know the next step is going to be next week or whatever, to add that one more element to their doing. And it gives you a chance to work on written English. If you're a multi-skill class, they can, write the script. If you're working only with spoken English, you can keep it, away from that written element. It's a very versatile project to do.
That's great, Jennifer. I did put that in the chat, everybody, so you can learn more. And the Pechakucha website that I've just sent to you has not only what is a Pechakucha, but there's a Pechakucha of the day. So you can just get a taste of what these things are. And they don't have to be technology based. You can do these in class without any technology. The concept transfers very, very
Yes.
nicely.
Very easy. I mean, they can bring pictures with them, and you can have a clock that they watch or a timer or something. But the thing is, with the Pechakucha, they have to practice and practice and practice and practice. So you get that repetition that's so important. And if you just go to YouTube and what's a Pechakucha, or how do you, there's lots of ways, videos that show you ways to build a Pechakucha.
Along those lines,
For me,
yeah.
a lot of my students are, what I talk to them about is how, I've got a lot of doctors and lawyers and dentists and physical therapists that are in my classes, and they've reduced themselves to cleaning houses. And they need to get their English up to speed so that they can improve their job opportunities. And we talk to them a lot about how they can transfer the utility of their knowledge in here in the United States. And then they have to learn the language about it so that they can go to a job interview. So maybe the Pechakucha thing might be a good way to approach job interviews.
Or just do job interviews, have, role playing there. That's another thing that it's often awkward, but if you do it in groups, it's not as intimidating.
Yeah, and they have to explain how they can transfer their skills from one language culture to another. So it's kind of interesting.
So along those lines goes just all forms of storytelling, whether it's in the Pechakucha, kind of a format, or you're writing, some kind of a writing lesson. But we all walk around with these spiels that we have ready to go. And that's what makes us feel prepared to talk on the spot, is that we've actually rehearsed these things thousands of times. So your learners do need the very same thing. Lots of repertoire, telling their story, how they got here, where they've come from, where they're headed. So you can hear all the grammar points in there already, right? It weaves in with past, present, and future that you might be teaching. Wonderful.
All that's great, but I don't know that it helps my early learners, the ones in my level 1 class.
Yeah.
Well,
they are those future learners, and that's the thing, is keeping our eye on how do we transition them and how do we build them for that path. And so starting at that word level is a great way to go. So something, just that getting down that notion that how a word looks is not how it sounds. And that way they know from the beginning, I have to use strategies to build my vocabulary in ways that I can speak it, that don't involve reading from my first language. So the word based to the phrase based. Yeah. Okay, so I mentioned a couple of things. We had the Launchpad, which we've talked about briefly and kind of touched on. Actually touched on it as well. Working my way backward, we mentioned Color It Out. Who's using Color It Out to engage learners? And would you like any ideas for expanding on what you're doing with it? Debbie? Yes, you are?
Yes.
Okay, great. If you have your deck close by, grab it, as I always do. Here's mine, and we'll just take a look and see. Let's see if we can just come up with 3 quick ideas for expanding on how we might use the game. So I use how many of you are teaching online? Who's teaching online? Everyone face to face these days? Okay, sometimes online. Great. So you may or may not know, let's just make sure people know the basics. This is a game just like so many card games where there's a draw pile and a discard pile. And in a face-to-face setting, we'd each have hands of cards either on the table or in a fan in your hand. I mentioned on the table just because it was surprising to me at first how many adult learners in my community college program were not accustomed to holding cards in a fan. So just be sure you don't make this the barrier that gets in the way. They may have never actually played cards before, some of my adult learners. So they may want to play cooperatively by laying their cards on the table, okay? But let's just say that, these are my cards right now. They're down at the bottom. And I'm going to look for a match. And I think I see one sneaking back there. Do I? No? There's a match right back there. And so then this is the essential game, is recognizing that I see a match here. And I will use my hand, of course, because by this point, we hope very early on, they know why they're doing this to measure time. Let's go ahead and take our turn together. Here we go. Ready? Gray day, pay, gray day came. And there you go. The fun of the game comes from the natural social setting as well as surprises. So whenever a student comes upon a word that it sounds different than they expected, suddenly, they always thought that this was to die. And suddenly they start matching the sound across, apply it, and now we have gray day came, gray day today. And they often put their hand or their finger right there on the stressed syllable when they get to it. Okay. So that's the standard. Next one would be taking each card as you put it down and making a sentence with those two words. We've got olive sock tomorrow, gray day today. Quick example from someone who can combine those two words into a sentence, or maybe two sentences. Doug, go ahead.
Oh, tomorrow is going to be a gray day today.
Okay, good. So you might make kind of a fun nonsense sentence, or you might say, today I'm playing, tomorrow I'll work. You could, depending on the level, get them to really expand on this and use the tenses that they're prepared to use. Okay, yeah. Great. Way number 3 would be to increase, so now we can be playing out without so much of a discard pile. Maybe that's on the side. And now we can be playing domino style. So how will this turn sound now? Try it. Here's the 4th play. And why don't we have someone like Wendell? You look like you want to have fun. Wendell, if this is the card I'm putting down, how will this play start if we want to hit all 4 opportunities? Can we start here?
Let's see. So today, gray day.
So let's play with gray.
Gray day today. I was, well.
You form the order. Go ahead. So we do something like gray day today, this one, and then that one. How will that sound?
Yeah.
Gray day.
Gray
Everyone
day.
can do it.
Yeah. Gray day today. You pay. I came. It's the same. Great.
Sure. Okay, great. So you took I didn't warn you that I'd kind of change frames. So you took the idea of making sentences or phrases and building into 4 of these. It could be as simple as gray day today, gray day pay, gray day came, gray day same, right? So that we're getting a lot of just word level practice, same sound across all. But you could say, this is today, I came, I paid, it's the same, something like that. If you wanted to provide little frames, it's today, it's the same, I paid, I came. I haven't tried something like that, but you know, you want to make it something very manageable. Okay. So we've had 3 ways. We could also play that each time you play the card, let's say if we're here, we get to the same, you make the sentence based off of the 2 matching words. Okay. So you can decide what your add-on or your bump or your power up is going to be as you're using the game. I watched adults play where they played head to toe. And so this was the sentence that they would make was between today and same. And then whenever they added a card, say the next one is an olive word, and they're playing head to toe, kind of like a long snake, their next sentence is right here. Okay. And each time they need to anchor themselves with their color vowels, so they're ready to say tomorrow and dollars and not dollars or something that might be tempting. Okay. Any other ways that you use color it out these days? Okay. The third idea, coming back to the first, actually, I'm going backward in time, is oh, it's a what? It's a what? And so I might start with something like this. And I'll invite the students to describe what it is, because now I know I'm not telling them what it is and the only word I'm using. I'm looking at their working vocabulary. So I'll say something like, Sue, what is this? And she'll say,
It's a zebra.
great. So she has zebra in her lexicon. She chose it precisely because it was available to her. If she chose animal, it's because that's what she has available. I won't necessarily assume she doesn't know zebra, but I have a bit of an inkling now, right? But whatever word she chooses, I can now get her started with this game. So Sue, you're going to say, it's a zebra, like you did. And then you'll say a zebra. So here's how the game works. What's this? And Sue says, you'll need to turn on your mic, by the way.
It's a zebra.
A what?
A
Say a
zebra.
Good. So the first time, it's a zebra. And then a what? A zebra. Yeah. A what?
A zebra.
Oh, a zebra. Okay. That's the rhythm of it. So it's twice. I'll say, Doug, what's that?
That's a zebra.
A what?
A zebra.
A what?
A green tea zebra.
Oh, a zebra. All right. So part of this is there's a genuine communication piece in here, whether it's a zebra or I'm going to change it in just a minute to my favorite thing these days, which is my shark. He's going to look at you for a couple minutes. But that whole a what? It's a what? The answer to that, and I've watched a lot of learners struggle with this when they're not understood in the moment, and they say, you know, I'm looking for my blah, 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 and people say, you're what? And they tend to go back to the very beginning of the whole statement rather than repeating the part that was asked for. A what? And so this is a shark. A what? A shark. Not this is a shark again, right? A what? A shark. Oh, a shark. Yeah. So I'm going to just to kind of lay down that rhythm one more time. I'm going to change the object each time, and we'll just do 3 of them. I've got my shark. In a moment, I'll do my cup. And then we'll do something kind of tricky. What's this? What do you want to call it? Because I already gave you what I'm going to call this. I'm going to call this a cup. But what's this thing?
We can't see Karen.
Yeah, we
Crazy. It's because Karen lost it for a sec. There we go. So we've got my shark, we've got my cup, and now we've got my
kazoo.
Zoo. Okay, it'll be a little tricky. Okay. And my students are starting with Doug, and then Peggy, and then Wendell, and we'll see if we want to continue from there. But I'll just be touching whatever it is we're talking about. Okay. So Doug, what's that?
It's a shark.
A what?
A shark.
A what?
A shark.
Oh, it's a shark. What's that, Wendell?
It's a gazoo.
A what?
A gazoo.
A what?
A kazoo.
Good. And we can play with, what do you do when you're trying to be extra clear? A kazoo. You might lean forward each time. Oh, it's a kazoo. Sue, what's that? What's this? I keep calling on her. She's not quite. I'm sorry to put you on the spot. I could pick someone else.
No, it's okay. It's a cup.
Okay. It's a what?
A cup.
A what?
Cup.
Oh, a cup. Okay. So I'm the one in the hot seat, but you're the one who's clarifying each time. Okay. And your students can be that. If I'm teaching online, I can manage the objects. Let's see, one more. Neri, I've seen you in the room, and now I think you might. Hello, good to see you, by the way. Nettie, can you turn on your mic? Nettie, are you the Nettie that I know from Costa Rica? Or maybe she can't hear me. I can't hear you right now. Are you talking to me? We're not sure. Okay, she's going to work on that. I'm going to ask Jennifer. You're going to be my guy. Let's see, Jennifer. What's this?
It's a duck.
A what?
A duck.
What?
A duck.
Oh, it's a duck. It's a cup of mustard duck. You can bring in your image cards and bring that all in. How many of you are feeling like, yeah, Karen, these are cute, but I don't know about my adult students. They're going to feel like this is pretty childish.
Students love it. They love it. They have so much fun, especially if you're working on intonation. And then I like to pass it. So everybody grab a pen. Everybody's got a pen right there in front of you. I know you do. Okay. So watch what I do with Karen and what Karen's going to do with, who's got one? Wendell. And then Wendell, you're going to have to follow the pattern. Okay. Karen, what's this?
It's a pen.
It's a what?
A pen.
A what?
It's a pen.
Oh, a pen. Here you go, Karen.
Oh, hey, thanks. Hey, Wendell. Hi, Wendell. This is a pen.
It's a what?
It's a pen.
It's a what?
A pen.
Oh, a pen.
Here you go. And now you've got it, and you can call on someone else with yours.
So Doug, what is this?
It's a pen.
A what?
A pen.
A what?
I said it's a pen.
Ah, a pen.
Yeah, nice. And you're modeling all of that, getting louder, getting closer, getting more succinct. All of those are options. So yes, I agree with Jennifer. Plus objects are super fun to touch. And I've used them both for training adults as well as training ESL students. Hey, Donna, I see you're in the room now. Do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, sure. I've been here, but I didn't turn my video and all that on. I have to tell you before we go any further with the pen, am I the only one when you had the shark and the kazoo and I was thinking, Mama shark, do 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 do, Mama shark.
I've been making a little video of anyone who well, anyway, I've been making a video of chants lately. So I have, this is a shark. A what? A shark. And so I've just been having fun with my shark, but it's tempting to sing. Yes. Wonderful. Yeah. So objects are actually very engaging. People love to touch things. They love to talk about themselves, storytelling. All of these things are forms of engagement. And that's, when you're talking about all levels, go back to who they are and what stories they need to tell. That would be my overall advice for engaging adult learners. If it remains in the book or if it remains about the teacher, that is going to lead to loss of engagement, I hate to say, but I think that's kind of a general truth. So do look for those opportunities to bring it back to them, and things in their hands, because hands are the pathway to the brain in so many ways. The sense of touch, holding things, doing things with their hands. As well as all of the reasons we know color vowel strategies work. Okay. Any final comments as we sign off? I want to thank you for being here, by the way. It's been a lovely, lovely afternoon conversation. Closing thoughts from you. Hi, Peggy. You need to unmute yourself. Oh, you need to unmute yourself.
I'm with Doug. My problem is not so much in the classroom, it's keeping the people engaged as they walk out the door, trying to get them engaged with their community. And so they watch the news in English. I bring a weekly stack of local newspapers and hand them out. And I have at least one assignment per semester where they look at the list of things going on in our community, and they have to say who, what, where, when, why. This is their homework, to go read that article about what's happening, and they come back and say who, what, where, when, why, how, and so on is happening, hoping that maybe one of them will actually go to one of these art shows or kids' music festivals or whatever they're writing about. And yeah, that's my big problem with engagement, is not in the classroom, but carrying forward. I know they will all sit down and dutifully do their homework in the book. That's not my objective, to just have them sit and fill in blanks in the book. I want them to.
Well, one thing I'd recommend, we have our own ideas of what we want students to do. But sometimes what they're going to do is a really different set of things.
Yeah.
What they do on the weekend does not have a big Venn diagram maybe with what you do on the weekend. So, here's that art exhibit that may not be on their list. It took, and I happened to live with somebody who finally told me, like, those places aren't for me. and he meant it in so many ways. Like, I don't really get art museums. This is my husband. Plus I don't really feel comfortable in those places. They don't seem like they're really made for me. And I can't say that he was particularly wrong about that. So it's, if I say, what is it my students go and do on weekends? I don't know, but I can invite them to come back with stories of interaction, where they come with the who, what, when, where, what happened kind of thing. If you were in my session on last October, I had a couple of special workshops on intonation and so forth. And we talked about the importance of coming back with real communication stories. What did you say? How did they respond? Did it go well? Were you happy with it? And that might be what you're looking for, Peggy, is having them report on their attempts to use English.
And I want them to attempt it. I want them to maybe not go to just a grocery store where everyone speaks Spanish or whatever, but to the mall, maybe go to the mall and listen to other people, and just get out there. That it's, I don't care if it's high
we want so much for our students. Yeah.
But I don't know if I can get them to do that.
It's true. Hey, Donna, you were going to add.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, Peggy, what you had just mentioned. Interestingly enough, I have an activity that's coming up next Tuesday with one of my classes. And I had that idea you did too about, maybe like an events calendar of activities and kind of thing. But I live in Atlanta and there's something, a million and one things going on all the time.
Yeah.
But what occurred to me is I actually went to our county Parks and Rec website. And that way it was more limited. Basically, if it's a paper handout, it's a front and back, but it's grouped by ages. If it's like very young children, school age children, adults, teens, adults, senior adults. But the activity I'm going to have for them is doing with the W questions.
Who and what, where, yeah.
They're going to need to select 3 different activities, and this is for the month of February. These are real events.
Yes.
And you kind of use that, but I love that idea that you have about using something like that calendar of events, because those are the real thing.
That's the real thing. Yes.
It's something where it's not going to the local Mexican market or something. So that
I will go to the local Mexican market and try to learn more Spanish. but
That
they need to go to the local.
That can be our homework. Say, thought
That's
I had
my
to
homework,
focus
yeah.
on."
So if, yeah, and if they are fairly new to the area, or just assume they are, I mean, I got to teach a course where I basically said, this is something that a lot of people do in the fall, for example, pumpkin picking.
Yes.
So it might not be the image that we have of go out and use English, but it's go out and do something new and come back and report on it. And, I kind of feel like the front edge of them going out and interacting with people is one that I can't prescribe exactly. What I want to do is fill them with the capacity to do that so that they engage when they're ready and confident. So that there's kind of a place where I feel like that's my boundary is I'm going to give you everything you need. And maybe I'll, tell you about this, go out to that patch, because a lot of people go to that place with their young kids and they go to the maze, and here's why they do it. But the actual interactions will be determined by their confidence. And that's a pretty go-to. Wonderful. Hey, we've come up, we started off with engagement, sort of defining different ways that we were thinking about that word. I took a lot of notes, and I'm looking back in the chat. I can see a lot spinning out of this. A couple things just kind of to look forward to. I think we'll do a session on pechacuchas just so people can really see what these are like, and we can explore how those might manifest in our own classrooms. A couple other things. Thank you for being here, Debbie. I think the idea of engaging with the community is one that it's a rich topic that just kind of emerged toward the end of our time. And that's one that we can certainly explore further. We can do that also in the teachers community. So if you arrived today because of an email that you received, that means that I only sent that through the community. So it means you're in there. But what I mean by the community, since we've had a couple, is this community. This is our Color Vowel Teachers Community in our learning platform. We're not transitioning out of Facebook exactly, but this is definitely our equitable, free space, private space where you can learn about what's coming up. All of our events are listed here. You can see this one's ending today. Next month, we'll be looking at elementary classrooms. So if you have colleagues in the elementary schools who are, interested in Color Vowel or what we're doing, invite them to come or join our community. And apart from that, we've got a third topic of standards in teaching spoken English. So are there standards? How do we know we're doing it well? What are some of the best practices? And what's out there that sort of corroborates that? Okay, all of that's coming up. Here in the community, you can post anytime. You can post what's on your mind, and we can engage with that. If you go and check your settings, you can get updates for when somebody has responded to you. So all of this is right here waiting for you in the community. Jennifer did mention in the chat that we do have a couple courses coming up. She'll be teaching grammaring. That is a word, grammaring, not just grammar. Grammaring is a process of discovery of grammar in ways that are maybe we'll call it the backdoor approach. And she's a visionary trainer about grammaring. So if you haven't worked with her before, I think you're in for a treat. You only need to be level 1 certified or trained or just about to be, like you all are, Wendell, and so forth. And also I'm teaching the first core course coming out of for the next month, which is spelling exploration. I'm pointing over here because it's a red word, spelling, and also because behind this virtual, I've got a bunch of Post-its with your names on them. So we have spelling exploration coming up. That'll be a month starting next week, okay, on Tuesday evening. So do get in touch if you have any questions. We're so glad to have you. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks, Doug, for the idea. We'll keep working on the spirals. Okay. Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you.
Be well. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Peggy. Bye, Wendell. Thank you so much. Bye, Donna. Good to see you. Bye-bye.